Hello and welcome back to Automotive Tales. As promised, today we're going to do some work on the Rolls-Royce. So you'll remember in the previous video, it started first time, but only running on 4 of its 8 cylinders. So we got the car home. You will see it is now in the barn. So it's time for me to lift the bonnet and pull some plugs. She is. Just fits in the barn. You'll notice the little light here isn't on because the battery's disconnected. It's been trickle charging for a couple of days and now it's time for me to start digging into all of this. So you're gonna have to excuse, it might be a bit noisy in the background. You can probably hear some machinery outside because there's all sorts happening today. But in amongst all of this, I decided it was time to work on the Rolls, as you do. So what am I doing? Well, I pulled some plugs a couple of days ago and they were looking pretty fouled. I think I mentioned it in the previous video. So I have 8 new plugs to go in. I've got my feeler gauges out so I can set the plug gaps. I spent ages Googling what the plug gap was and then realized it is literally in the owner's manual. So there you go. 0.03 is the plug gap. So those are going in, and then the last bit to do, I've received a rotor arm from Flying Spares. So time to get the old ones out, plug gap the new ones and get them back in. So the plugs are starting to come out. You can see what the problem is. It looked like this really needed an Italian tune, but those plugs look horrendous. So no wonder it wasn't running properly. So I have quite a lot of hope that the new plugs are going to do the job. It is proving a little bit tricky to get in though, because the access down here, if I can get the torch moved over, is it's not great. So one by one we're slowly getting there, but yeah, we're 3 down. 4th one over here is not terrible, or this tube might have to go out of the way, but that side, yeah, that side is not looking great. So there's like a canister there, which looks like it's, I don't know, part of the steering system maybe. That looks right in the way. We have rotor arm out from the Prince of Darkness that is Lucas. It doesn't look terrible, but this end here, I did clean it last time I had it open to check the plugs. And it isn't really great, so I thought, well, it can't harm to throw a new one in. The new one isn't a Prince of Darkness model, but some generic aftermarket one. But it comes from Flying Spares, so I trust the quality should be okay. I presume Lucas no longer manufacture them. So yeah, we're going to fit that, see if it makes the difference. I will keep this one just in case for now. Right, better get that fitted, and then back on to trying to get these plugs sorted. A few more plugs coming out and you can really see the issue. Look at the state of that. So we've got one bank done and Dr. Nuff is working on the other bank, which has got lots of accessibility, right? So what happened there, Nuff? He may have dropped the socket, but it's not on the floor, which is always a good sign. Found it?
Yeah.
So you may have not gathered from the time lapse, we're working our way along this side. I've still got one left to do on that side. So Nuff got these three out. We've put three back in. I'm just working my way around, sort of tightening them up. Huh?
What size do you want it?
Not FT, just nipped. Which is nice and accurate. There isn't a proper torque setting, it's like 3/4 of a turn once it feels like it's compressing the gasket, I think, according to the box. Oh, there is a torque setting, but tighten angle, 1/2 to 2/3. There you go. But the big difficult one is going to be right at the back of the engine here. So there's a fourth one, and it's surrounded by the bottom of the pot here that holds LHM fluid. This canister here that I'm not entirely sure what it's for. You've got a hard line for the dipstick here, and there's a couple of other hard lines, like oil drain lines from various other bits of equipment that go down into the cylinder head on that side. It's proving really, really tricky. Let me see if I can get a close-up. This is what we're working with. I can't even get the camera to focus all the way down there. So that's the front one we've just managed to get tightened up. Oddly, despite that being really accessible or really visible, just everything around it was in the wrong place to get the sockets and the spanners on. And you've got number 2 there, which was not terrible, but all of these are all hard lines. These are not flexible, so you've got to work around all of those. Number 3, where's number 3? Is way down there, so I've actually put the lead back on number 3, and then the 4th and final one is right there. But you can see the access with that canister, and then all these other hard lines around it is going to make this a bit tricky. So here we go again. So, moment of truth. You may remember from previous video that these cars all have a built-in battery isolator. So that is the battery now hooked into the car. So we can see the little light has come on. Now let's see whether the damn thing starts, shall we? Key in. Let it build a bit of fuel pressure. Are we ready, Meowed? Ooh, nearly. It fired at least, that's a good start. Still running on 4. So, we're definitely getting a bit of an odd setup. So we've got cylinders 1 and 4 running over there and 2 and 3 not, but we're getting a good spark on all of them. So now we're going to have a try at pulling a lead off down here and see whether we're getting a spark, right?
Engine tone before anything. Yeah, look at that, nothing.
So that's plugged lead off and back on again. No change in engine speed. So it's the centre of cylinders again. So it's 2 and 3 on this side, you think? Yeah. You might struggle to get down to that one.
Yeah. Oh.
A little bit, but that's number 1, isn't it?
That's 4 off. 1 and 4 are off.
And it's made no difference whatsoever.
It's made none.
So it's running on like 3 cylinders, 4 cylinders.
It might be running on 2 and 3 on this side. Let me pull 3 in a second and I'll find out. It'd make a lot of sense if it was running on 2 and 3 and 1 and 4. Turn it off.
No, knock her off.
Yeah, so it's running on 2 and 3 on this side and 1 on 4 on the other side.
There you go then.
So I've replaced the spark plugs, I've replaced the distributor arm, and turns out it's nothing to do with those at all. It must be something to do with fueling, although I can smell a very rich vein of petrol out of the back of the car. So not entirely sure what's going on there. We've been through and checked everything on the ignition system. It's a single coil, so it isn't a coil that's missing out, because it's every other cylinder firing based on the firing order that's not firing. So we can rule the ignition system out because we've taken out the non-firing cylinders, and we're definitely getting a spark using the old spark plug. This is the cleanest of them all. So clearly it's not been great for a while. My suspicion is fueling, and we've done a bit of research, and it turns out that, as we suspected, the carbs don't just fuel one side of the engine. So it's not B carb here, so it's A on that side, B on this side, B carb doing B1, 2, 3, 4, but B does 2 of the cylinders on that side and the opposite 2 on this side, and vice versa for the A carb, which means our problem is here. It's this carburettor that is not sending any fuel into the engine. So now I've either got to get that out or maybe send it to Dwayne and have him rebuild the carburettors. So what we have noticed is quite a pungent smell of petrol. So what it's sort of suggesting is that maybe actually that carburetor is working, but it's dumping way too much fuel in. So either way, it's an issue with the carburetors, which, as far as I'm concerned, are absolute magic. So not quite sure what I'm going to do next.
A few moments later.
So as previously explained, carburetors are basically magic. I opened it up, I put it back together, and that, my friends, would be a Rolls-Royce running on all 8 cylinders. I have absolutely no idea what I've done to fix it, but it appears to be fixed. So we did have the top off the dash pot here. I cleaned the oil out, put some fresh oil in the dash pot, and that seems to have done the job. We had to get a bit of a clean around, so maybe there was a little bit of rubbish on the needle inside, but nothing that seemed to be catastrophic, but apparently that's all it was. Now it seems to be ticking along just nicely. All of that faff, and I could have literally done that while it was in storage before bringing it home. I suppose I should probably get it out and go for a drive, eh? So I should probably point out a massive thank you to Joe, my neighbour, who you'll have seen on previous videos, because he has now got the Porsche Boxster, or the shit Boxster as we've called it, and of course Dr. Nuff for helping me fettle and fault find and running through the logic of what might or might not be wrong with this car. So I think if I'd been left to my own devices, I'd have sat and pulled my hair out by now. So yeah, massive thank you to Nuff and Joe. Things are a lot easier when you've got friends around. It's great. And that's what messing with cars is all about. And, you know, everyone likes to have a little poke around underneath the bonnet of a Rolls-Royce, because it's not the sort of thing you see every day, even though this didn't really cost me a great deal. So yeah, what a wonderful thing. I think I should be using this to go to work this week, because why not? Okay, well, we have a Rolls-Royce running on all 8 cylinders, and oh, what a joy it is. It feels so nice and smooth. It did run to get it home, running on 4, but it wasn't great. And there is still one problem I need to resolve, is as soon as you get any heat in the exhaust system, it's just tapping on the underside of the car. So you've got a horrible knock, 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 which is quite annoying. But the revs are now much more stable, so it's not doing it all the time. When the revs were low because it was running on 4, it was awful. As soon as you stopped, you got a dug, 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 which sounded like it's knocking when it's not. In reality, they're going to let me out. Very good. So now it's up and running, I best take it for a run around the block and warm it through. And it's driving beautifully. This is great. So apart from that one little problem, which if I diagnosed correctly a few weeks ago when I pulled it out of its previous storage, it would have ran perfectly and I could have used it. So the hope is to give it a quick clean and actually use it next week. But in the meantime, I'm going to go for a little drive around the village and just enjoy wafting, because why not? Right, well, thank you for watching this episode of Automotive Tales. I thought this was going to be an episode of I can't fix the Rolls-Royce and I don't know why, and now it's going to cost me a load of money, but it turns out actually it's fixed. I did a thing. I don't really know how I fixed it. I took it all apart, put some grease on some bits and put some fresh oil in the carburetors, and now it sort of just works. But I did a thing. Right, bye for now. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. So, as promised, I have taken the Rolls-Royce out and about, and I've come for a meeting at a place where I thought this was the only vehicle to bring. You guessed it. You only get one chance really at something like this, don't you? So, you know, has to be done. And I got a few interesting stares driving into the car park, as you might expect. Sadly, there aren't many Rolls-Royce often found at the Rolls-Royce site, unless you're down in Goodwood. So right, I best go and do some actual work, but I thought I'd share my little bit of joy for the day in bringing the Rolls-Royce to a meeting at Rolls-Royce.